Hey guys, it's Megan. Welcome back to another video. Today we are in my home library because it's just where I had time to film instead of the actual library. But today I'm going to give you some tips just that I've learned already so far this school year about how to do stations in a high school library. Now, I said high school. This could work for middle school too, I suppose. Elementary, I think, is going to be a lot different, but I was an elementary librarian for like 1 year, and I did some stations then, and it's definitely not the same in high school, but I thought that this year I would try out stations. And before I give you my tips, I'll just tell you the 2 reasons that we started doing stations in the library this year. And it's one, because students did not always like the activity that we were doing. Like if we were watching book trailers, or honestly, it was more the times that we were doing like the speed dating, like book speed dating, book tastings. We did book musical chairs, musical shelves, things like that. And sometimes it was like pulling teeth to get kids to do the activity. And I was like, you know what? Maybe having a choice of what they do would be more interesting to some of them and keep them more engaged. The second main reason was because book checkout was getting too backed up at the end of the period. Like usually we would have 10 to 15 minutes at the end of the little lesson to do book checkout. And that was just not enough time for me to help kids individually. If it was a class of 30 kids especially, and the line would get backed up to even just get checked out, which stressed out my student aides. But also I couldn't help everybody more individually. Those are the main 2 reasons, but also kind of the third reason was I was exhausted. Like some days when I would have back-to-back classes, like 2 per block, so I'd have like 8 classes a day or something, I would just be so tired when I would come home because it was all me doing the work. I was like, you know what? If we do stations, the students are gonna be the ones doing the work. I'm just gonna be the facilitator. And it still does involve a lot of walking, so I've still been pretty tired on those days, but it's not the same kind of tired. I don't have to be like on like the whole time. Like I just am like looking around, like monitoring and things like that. And with the teacher in there too, that really helps. So a few of the tips that I've learned so far, just kind of a forewarning here, is that this is my first year doing these stations and it's the beginning of October. So it's not like I've had much experience yet, but I just had to show you some things I learned so that if you start out doing it here soon as well and you want to try it this year or next year, that you can learn from my mistakes because I definitely made some mistakes. So at the beginning, I had students try stations for 20 minutes. We'll talk about the timing first here. And 20 minutes was too long. It was with seniors, thank goodness, because I think with the freshmen, it would have been even worse. But even seniors could not stay on task for 20 minutes at a time. Or the activity I had planned for them just wasn't enough to do for 20 minutes, I suppose. I'll tell you more about the activity options later. But then I tried 10 minutes. I tried that with freshmen and sophomores. Just freshmen is the only one I tried the 10 minutes with. That was not enough time. I mean, they were focused. They stayed on task that whole time, but they just couldn't get done with whatever the activity was. And we felt really, really, really rushed, especially even transitioning from one station to another. It's like we just didn't have time for anything because we were trying to cram in too many stations per period. So I've decided 15 minutes is kind of perfect. Now, it's not always that we've exactly had 15 minutes. Like yesterday, the class came later than they were supposed to come. And so like they had to do something else in their classroom first and they got behind. So they only had 12 minutes per station. It's what it was, it's just sometimes it's going to work out that way. But 15 minutes seems to be the sweet spot for high school students, depending on obviously the activities that you have planned for them. But I'll show you my activities, but for mine, 15 minutes was perfect. Okay, the next issue that I encountered was with book checkout. So let's say that the students who were doing the book checkout station, they had 15 minutes to do the book checkout. Some of them still choose a book very, very quickly. Like they will choose a book within 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes of checking out a book. And then what do they do? Where do they go? Sorry if you can hear that. My husband's like playing a really loud video. So if they finished book checkout that quickly, then what were they to do? So some of them, at the first, I just told them to go find a station to sit at. But then that was really chaotic because they were coming in at a different time as everybody else. And they were just kind of like not wanting to get started on anything because they know they didn't have as much time. And it was really awkward. So what I would recommend, and it's worked really well so far, is that so our teachers do like a monthly independent reading thing. And so they have a sheet that kids have to fill out about their books. And they were going to do it later in their classroom, but we realized they could just like check out a book and then start filling out the sheet. And if they don't finish, that's fine, but at least it gives them something else to do. And I'm keeping them separated, like literally on other sides of the 2 different sides of the library, to do this. So like the kids are doing the station are kind of all over here. And then the kids that are doing book checkout, as soon as they check out their book, they sit on the other side of the library and work on their little preview book sheet. And if a teacher doesn't have that, then I'm just going to say that they have to sit on that side or in like the little comfy chairs kind of spread out and start reading their book. They just have to sit there and start. They're not going to go pick a station. They're not going to bother those other kids because they're on task working. We don't want these kids coming over and messing it all up, right? So that's just what we're going to have to do. So that'd be my tip for like when students finish checking out a book early. You have something else for them to do and don't let them join another station because it just kind of creates chaos. Now, as far as where they are in the library, you would think that dividing them up would be better, right? You would think that using the entire space and separating them, because at first that's what I thought. Quickly learned that is not the case, because even though both me and the teacher are in the room, like there are two of us, adults in there to monitor, the library, at least my library, is really big. And it's kind of hard to see every part of it kind of at all times. So to keep up with everything, it honestly was so much easier because my library is so big. We can pretty much keep them contained on just one side of the library, which there's a class that meets in our library every single day anyway on the other side. So I honestly couldn't really use both sides of the library anyway. I have to keep the one class kind of away from the other class, but that only happens one period a day. Anyway, I keep them kind of contained, but still spread out enough. So like the kids doing book checkout, we're checking out. The kids doing this little scavenger hunt thing, we're up running around doing that. And then there's like 3 or 4 other groups who are sitting right there at the tables, but kind of spread out or in the kind of the back corner on that side. So they're all kind of nearby, and the only ones that are up roaming around are the ones that are supposed to be. And that really helps too with like if you have a class that's got some behavior issues in it, they're not all up roaming around browsing and stuff at the same time. And so finally, I'll just kind of tell you some of the stations that I've offered and kind of how they've gone. I found this, I'll try to put some pictures in right here. I found this Canva template just called Station Rotation. It's just on Canva. I'll try to link it down below. I can never remember to link things, but I will try to remember this time. And I just edited it from there. And then I'll keep scrolling through some slides here for you to see what I did. I did put in the procedures, like how this was going to work. Just very, very briefly. I think we won't go over them as in-depth every visit when the students come because it takes some time at the beginning, obviously, of the class period to go over this. But the first time I thought I really had to hound in the procedures and the expectations. I was literally having stress dreams about how this was going to go for the first time. So I told kids I needed them to follow the procedures. So then I had ChatGPT write these procedures for me. And they are really very helpful. And we kind of go over those. We go over them really in depth, of course, that first time. But then I think after that, it's just like a refresher. And then I just tell kids, here's the choice of stations, and we go over the choices. And of course, so here's the good thing is that you can have the teachers give some input. Like it is going to involve some planning ahead of time on your part, which we'll talk more about in a minute, as an advantage actually. But it basically, you can ask the teacher, hey, do you need, like the first teacher that ever came and tried this, she needed her students to meet with her kind of in small groups to discuss like missing assignments and like what things they really needed to focus on and stuff like that. Like she wasn't discussing individual grades with them or anything because obviously, they're in a group. So basically we had 3 groups and she assigned them ahead of time. And that was really helpful is that she had divided her classes because she has some big classes, like 30 plus kids, into 3 groups. One group was going to do book checkout. Like let's say 10 kids were going to do book checkout. 10 kids were going to come and sit and meet with her. And then the other 10 got to choose which station they wanted to go to. And there were like 3 other choices or 4, whatever. And then we rotated and the groups just changed. Now, if a teacher doesn't assign the group, I've had to kind of just make the groups myself a little bit. Like I would just kind of divide the class up and say like a third of you are going to go check out, a third of you are going to do a station, and then we're just going to keep switching or whatever. And we're going to switch stations. Or the one time that we only got to do 2 stations because they only came for a very short amount of time, they did book checkout. Half of them did, and then the other half picked a station, and then we just switched. So they only got to go to one other station besides book checkout. But if they had a book from home that they were already reading and didn't need to check out a book, they could go to 2 different stations. So these are some of the stations that we've offered. I will say with the quiet reading time, didn't go so well in some of the classes because they were off task. So we have definitely limited it to no more than 4 students per group so we put a quiet reading time back in the corner, only 4 students. Once we get 4 there, they can't go to that station. They have to pick another group because they're just not going to sit back there and hang out in the corner. I will also say, I think having the right number of stations is key. So at the very first time we did it, I think we had 7 stations. Too many. Students couldn't even choose where to go. It was like, transition time between stations. And I said, okay, guys, you got 1 minute to like pick the next station. They're just like wandering around. I mean, there were signs too. I mean, they were kind of little signs, like just on a piece of paper, but still they were just kind of wandering around like, what, where am I? What? I don't know, cause they didn't really care. They didn't want to do it. And they just couldn't pick a station and get focused. So I would say that honestly, the sweet spot has been, having book checkout as a station and then like 4 other options. I would say like 5. We are going to try on Friday with 6 and see how that goes. Cause like 7 was too many. And then I think we did 3 on one of them and it was not enough. So anyway, I think 5 has been really, really good. If book checkout's 1 and 4 other choices. So like a scavenger hunt where they can get up and run around. I do want to offer a makerspace activity. We couldn't do it this time because for this round of classes, because another teacher was using all of our makerspace supplies. so they wouldn't have been available for the library classes to come in. But I think having a makerspace option themed to like either something going on like that month, like if it's Hispanic Heritage Month, we could do some sort of craft that goes along with that. Maybe they could have a certain prompt too, like that they have to use at least 3 different materials from the makerspace, you know, instead of just doing all one thing. And something that they can do in 15 minutes is the other problem, right? It can't be a massive craft project or something. But we do have a 3D printer, so they could find something that they could 3D print to go along with this project, and I could print it for them later, you know, or I have clay, polymer clay, they could make something and then I could bake it later and give it to them. I have a little toaster oven to bake it in. So, or bracelet making, origami, you know, I don't know, just really, really random stuff. They could design a sticker on Canva and I could print it out later because I can make stickers now. I figured out how to do that. We have a button maker. They could do, you know, make a little pin or something. So I think if it's something quick and easy that they could learn how to use, that would be really fun. And then at each station, I just put the directions, like I just printed it out from this Canva template, just so they would make sure to have all the directions on there. So that way I don't have to explain directions ahead of time. I mean, I vaguely explained what each station was as an option, but I didn't go into like, if it was the explore the catalog activity, I wasn't like, okay, first you go to this website and then you click this. You know, I didn't have to say all that. I just said, read the directions at your station. So that made it pretty easy. Okay. And finally, I just want to end by saying that this does take a lot of preparation compared to maybe just like, hey, we're going to watch book trailers or we're going to do a book tasting and I'm just going to put out some decorations and throw some books on some tables, you know, or whatever, which is, you know, I'm just so used to doing those things that they're easy for me to plan now and they don't take very long. It does require a lot of planning, but it's so worth it. So instead of being super, like having easy planning and then being super exhausted every day when I do these activities, because I see so many, I mean, I'll do the same lesson like 50 times because we have like 7 English teachers that have 6 classes each. So, I mean, it's a lot. The math's not mathing there, is it? It's like 42. I don't know. I feel like there's definitely more than 42 English classes, but I guess there's all the special ed classes and I don't know. There's like 50 classes. So I have to love the activity because oh yeah, that's the other thing. I get bored of doing, like if I'm doing book trailers or a book tasting, I get bored of explaining the directions like 50 times and running the activity 50 times, usually over the course of 2 weeks is what it takes. And it's just, it's monotonous and it's a test of your acting skills. That you know, you have to pretend like you're just still so interested in this activity. You probably know what I'm talking about. So this gives me so much more just like flexibility to have different stations each time, not have to, besides explaining the directions vaguely, really all my job is then just to facilitate, like answer questions about book recommendations, help students find books, like just talk to kids about books. They come and ask me about their lost books, you know, just anything. Like they randomly come up to me and say, hey, I want to start a poetry club. Like I'm just more available for them to talk to me because we're not rushed to get everybody checked out, books checked out at the same time. So anyway, I have really enjoyed it so far, and I'm gonna at the end of the year give a survey to all the students and all the staff, well, the English teachers anyway, ask them what they thought of the stations, you know, any feedback, pros and cons. Do we want to continue it next year? Do we want to change it? That kind of thing. I forgot what I was saying earlier though. I was saying planning though, you got to plan a lot in advance, like contact the teacher that's coming, ask them if there's a specific station that they want, tell them some of your ideas, see if they think that would work well with their classes, you know, just like however long they want to stay, because we have block scheduling, so they could stay the whole block and we can do a lot of stations, or we can stay just half of the block and we can do fewer stations. You know, it just depends on the teacher's desires, which has worked out really well because then we can be super, super flexible with what the teachers need. And of course, there's like the printing of all the signs, making everything, getting everything ready, because some of the things have little worksheets like to go along with them, you know, stuff like that. But all the planning along, I mean, that's easy stuff, like the planning, and that's the fun part. Like I loved planning the scavenger hunt and the catalog activity and different things. Like I love planning the makerspace activity. That's all fun. And then like I said, when the kids actually come, it's easy to you're just like the facilitator at that point. So I'm putting more of the work on kids now, which is what we've always been taught to do as a teacher, is to like, you know, make sure the kids are doing the bulk of the work. Like you shouldn't have to be the one doing it all, right? So that's kind of what I've decided with the stations. So anyway, if you try stations out this year, please let me know in the comments. Good luck, and please give us any more tips that you have if you've ever tried stations. If you'll post them in the comments so that everybody else can see, then I would appreciate it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you again soon. Bye.